Yep, that's 100% factual. As I returned to the surface, I had the misfortune of remembering what phantoms were. And like always, these things are going to be really annoying throughout this challenge. I have no enemies, except phantoms, those things suck. I continued expanding the island by creating another outline a few blocks out and beginning to fill it in. I couldn't afford my mortgage payments anymore, so I held back my tears as I heartlessly and ruthlessly demolished our dirt hut. But I moved through the grieving process rather swiftly with a mere 40 years of therapy, and began chopping down trees on our island on the morning of day 9 because they were annoying me. I then made our storage system look a bit less awful, and then realized I could go ahead and check off some of the 1.21 blocks and items we need to collect. So I placed in some more dirt in this part of the island, and then crafted and placed it down the crafter. I then crafted a crafter using said crafter to get a new 1.21 advanced. Crafters crafted crafters. Pretty crafty, if I do say so myself. I'm sorry. Our efforts then finally paid off because a wandering trader had already spawned. He was invisible, but he had a jungle sapling trait, which is the main trait I want other than sugarcane, because I want our base to be jungle. So I trapped him in a boat, and then his llamas disappeared. I wonder where they went in such a hurry. Oh, I don't have any way to get emeralds yet, but hopefully this boat prevents the wandering trader from despawning until we get emeralds so we can get that jungle sapling trait. And just to make sure Bro survives until then, I built a cobblestone shelter around it. I then expanded our wheat farm more, and now it's day 10, and we're officially 10% of the way through this challenge. And we're making a decent bit of progress so far, but there's still a lot left to do, so on the morning of day 10, I crafted and placed down the copper grates, doors, and trapdoors. I then decided that disgusting creature had a bit too much freedom, so I chained him to this fence post and left him there forever. Once you obtain one singular brain cell, I will release you. So basically, I won't release you. I also attached a boat to a fence post with the other lead I got from the llamas, so yeah, it's pretty cool that you can do that now in 1.21. That feature is going to make transporting villagers, once we get them later on, a lot easier. Speaking of getting villagers, though, we still need to get blocks to build the mob farm, so we can actually do that. So I headed back into the mines for another overworked underpaid shift, and I hacked at stone, dirt, and gravel for basically the rest of the day before resurfacing by the end of the day. I then crafted a stone cutter, and then crafted some chiseled copper using said stone cutter, and placed it into our 1.21 blocks display on the morning of day 11. We almost had enough blocks to build the mob farm, so after placing a bunch more dirt into the island, I headed back into the mine and continued excavating profits from the earth for the rest of the day. Then wasted time extending the mine through this water cave for some reason on the morning of day 12. I continued that process until my brain imploded, and then headed back up to the surface. I then committed my daily dose of deforestation for mob farm resources, but mostly to smelt into charcoal for fuel. I then discovered that you can plant saplings on farm. I have no actual idea why I never knew you could do this, but this is absolutely fascinating. I was still lacking funding for my business venture, however, and investors were showing little to no interest. So I took matters into my own hands and headed back into the mines again and proceeded to obliterate stone for basically the rest of the day. And on the morning of day 13, I crafted up the remainder of the materials required to build the mob farm, and then it was finally time to actually build it. I began by bridging out a bit from the island, because this farm is going to be mildly atrocious for me. I then began building up with cobblestone until I hit the stratosphere, performed an Olympic dive and broke all the bones in my body, and then constructed a vertical transportation device all the way up the tower. And even though this farm is going to be monumental to making a ton of progress towards our goals in this challenge, I'm sure you've seen this exact farm built literally 1 billion times before, so I'll try to speed through this a bit. I built out a platform at the top of the tower, and then began work on the ankle-breaking chute, before being interrupted by more phantoms. After surviving by cowering in fear, I went to sleep, and then watched as the sun burnt my enemies to a crisp on the morning of day 14. I then headed back to work and completed the polydown chute thing. I then added in the tax collection system, built out the water slides, and then built the platforms. And then realized I made the farm slightly too big, and the water didn't reach the end of the water slide. I wasn't really in the mood to undo and then redo everything I just built, though, so I just moved the water sources forward and added these wall things, along with adding in all the trapdoors, so the mobs actually walk into the water channels. I completed that by the end of the day, and began adding in the roof on the morning of day 15. And I ran out of cobblestone, so I started just using whatever blocks I could find in my pockets to complete the roof. It doesn't really matter, though, we're not going to see this a lot, so we just need it to be functional. But I ran out of blocks, so I headed back down to the base. But I got distracted harvesting our wheat field and expanding it even more. Wheat is going to be really important, though, not only for food, but also for trading with villagers, and most importantly, so we can actually build a villager breeder and get a villager trading hall and populate our island with 100 inhabitants. I then realized that our wandering trader had escaped and his llamas had returned, but actually the wandering trader just despawned, because apparently boats don't prevent them from despawning after a certain amount of time. And then somehow another wandering trader spawned soon after that. This would be lucky, but we don't have any emeralds yet, so this is really unlucky if anything. But nonetheless, the llamas mysteriously disappeared, and I decided to borrow their leads. And I trapped the wandering trader in a boat in this cobblestone prison, just in case we're able to get emeralds in the next few days. Also, his trades weren't that great either. Anyways, I went back to replanting the wheat field, and then grabbed some more blocks and headed back up to work on the mob farm. But when I got back up on the morning of day 16, I could hear that mobs were already spawning, even though I'm pretty sure I lit up the platform with torches. So I built up and around to gain the high ground and attack from above, but then I got scared by this creeper and ran away. Once I made my way back up, however, there were no mobs to be found. I'm pretty sure they just despawned and then didn't respawn because it's daytime. I took the W and got back to work on the roof. I also lit up the roof a bit more, and with that, the mob farm is finally complete, and we're done with step 5. So I broke out all my scaffolding, and the mob farm had already started working. And now it's time for step 6, cure a zombie villager. Well, actually 2 zombie villagers. First, we need to trap 2 zombie villagers from this mob farm. To cure zombie villagers, you need a potion of weakness and a golden apple. We can make golden apples pretty easily, but a weakness potion would require a brewing stand and blaze powder, which would require going to the nether and finding a nether fortress. But that's time-consuming and dangerous, assuming you have a skill issue like myself. But luckily, witches actually have a chance to throw weakness potions under certain conditions. We can worry about those conditions later, but for now, we just need to trap a witch along with our 2 zombie villagers. Both of those things are just going to take a bit of patience and hard work. My 2 least favorite things. For now, though, I wanted to take a break from the mob farm for a bit and work on another one of our goals. So I headed into the mines and began mining down deeper into deep slate level, so we can find some tuff and get some of the new tuff blocks. I did that for the rest of the day and on the morning of day 17. Once I hit diamond level, though, I just gave up, I guess. I went back up to the mob farm for some reason, and then went back down to the base and crafted a golden apple with some of the gold we got from mining. I then went back up to the mob farm to begin waiting for a zombie villager or witch to spawn. I waited, expanded the platform some, and then a witch fell down. Epic. So I blocked off the chute temporarily and built a prison for the witch. I'm pretty sure witches are just much more common than zombie villagers though, so this is still going to take a bit of time unfortunately. I placed a boat in the witch's prison, broke out some blocks between the mob farm and the enclosure, and then used some water to get the witch into the boat. I then closed the mob farm back up and let all of the mobs out of the waiting room. I then headed back downstairs on the morning of day 18 and gathered up all the blocks I had. I then headed back up to the mob farm and continued expanding on the platform to make room for our next 2 prisoners. Patience. I then continued waiting for a zombie villager to fall down for a while, but without any luck, so I headed back down to the base and harvested and expanded our wheat field. I then headed back up to the mob farm, built the prison, house for our patients. Yeah, that makes sense. I continued waiting for the rest of the day and managed to get more witches and suffer permanent hearing loss, but I obtained absolutely 0 zombie villagers. I continued my fruitless efforts on day 19, along with expanding the platform a bit. I kept waiting for a while and managed to make some beds with the string I was getting from spiders, which we're going to need for the villager breeding. But still no zombie villagers, so I decided to head back into the depths to get some more dirt, mostly because I was bored of just waiting at the mob farm, but also because we still need to expand the island more, because I'm pretty sure the other wandering trader already despawned, and we still need to get other wood types, and ideally sugarcane for enchanting as well. I then used my dirt profits to construct some more of the island, and then headed back into the depths with a different goal in mind. I began the search for tuff at deep slate level on the morning of day 20, but found gravel instead, so I headed up to the mine shaft we found earlier instead to gather up some tuff there so we can check some of the new tuff blocks off our list of 1.21 blocks and items. I then headed back up to the surface and crafted up a bunch of new blocks. I then placed them into our 1.21 blocks and items display. And now, for most of the rest of what we have to get, we're going to have to find a trial chamber. And luckily, you can get trial chambers explorer maps from cartography villagers, which is not only one of the new items itself, but will also allow us to get the rest of the blocks and items. I then began duplicating our dirt using the coarse dirt method and placing it into the island for the rest of the day. Then I went to sleep for some reason, because I was tired. I headed back up to the mob farm on the morning of day 21 with a newfound sense of determination to wait until either the sun blows up or a zombie villager falls down this chute thing and blocks it. And after waiting for the entire rest of the day and for the morning of day 22, a zombie villager finally fell down. I quickly blocked off the chute and carefully deleted the other mobs. I then added a boat into our subject's prison, broke out some blocks, and then he just walked right into the boat. Now that we have our first subject, it's time to cure this fool. So I headed back down to the base and harvested and replanted our wheat field. Yeah, I guess I got distracted. Anyways, then I grabbed some building blocks and headed back up to the mob farm to build out a platform so we have some more room to perform the procedure. I then began trying to figure out how to get the witch and zombie villager into position on the morning of day 23. I basically need the witch to be right here and the zombie villager to be up on this platform. So I began constructing a hallway for the witch to walk down and a stairway for the zombie villager to walk up. I then realized that another zombie villager had fell down the mob farm chute, so I could actually cure both of them at the same time. So I blocked off the chute again and began carefully getting rid of all the other mobs. And there actually turned out to be 2 zombie villagers. So I guess we'll have a backup too. I then repeated basically the same process as before, but then the baby zombie villager escaped. I quickly used my multiple brain cells to tower up and then trapped him in a boat in a box. I then got the other zombie villager in a boat and then reconstructed the mob farm. I then realized that I only have one golden apple, but I need two if I'm going to cure both zombie villagers. So I headed back down to the base and headed back into the mines on the morning of day 24 to search for gold. After a bit of hacking at stone, I found this water cave with some gold in it. So I used the door method to swim around the water cave collecting gold, and I managed to get enough for another golden apple, so I headed back upstairs and chopped down some trees while I waited for our profits to smelt up. I then crafted the golden apple and headed back up to the mob farm. I then completed the trap for the zombie villagers and released them, and they almost immediately got into place. I don't think it's possible to get them into a singular block this way, but this should still be fine. And this trap door here will allow us to place blocks to trap the witch in here. So after expanding the platform a bit more on the morning of day 25, we were officially a quarter of the way through the challenge, and it's now time to get the witch into place. So I broke out the blocks leading to the prison and broke the boat. I then used the water bucket to force the witch into position and then fully blocked off the exit. And now everything is finally in position and we can save these villagers' trades.
A highly infectious parasitic organism known as the Flood has been spreading throughout this world. It grows and spreads by infecting other life forms, hijacking their bodies and transforming them into monsters. It spreads at an alarming rate. If there is biomass available, it will find it and consume it. The Flood is unstoppable. Over the next 100 days, I'm going to develop a nuclear bomb, explore a dying world. Well, that's a lot of them. Go, 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 go! And create a spacecraft to escape this planet as I race against this ancient parasite consuming everything in its path. So I started in a snowy village. There was a bunch of little wooden buildings all over the place and stuff in the streets. There was villagers walking around. This place was looking good. It was looking like the type of place that I could get a bunch of stuff to survive with. So my plan was to spend the first few days grabbing as much stuff from this village as I could before I would even start thinking about figuring out how I was going to get off the planet. There was walls around the village, and I thought the walls would have stopped the Flood from getting in here. But as it turns out, that was not the case. The Flood were already here. What is that? Is that coming for me? That's coming for me. Oh, sorry. What is going on out there? Those little things running around are called infection forms. Although they may look relatively weak, they have the potential to wipe out an entire world. Their main goal is to infect everything, and right now, they were spreading throughout the town. While they were infecting villagers, I was trying to grab what I could from chests. I was mainly looking for food to heal myself, as well as weapons to fight back. Oh, 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 oh. Here we go. Okay, I gotta see what these things do. Oh. You. He's running from it too. You saw that? It started running. Oh! 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 Hear this horse. Okay. Okay. That guy's... Something's up. I gotta take everything I can from this town and get out of here. There's apples in every house. Can't really survive on that. I'm talking about it. Of course you can. Oh! Oh! Oh, there's a lot of them. Oh, they're everywhere. Oh! Run, 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 run. These guys are running too. Oh my god, there's so... Okay, there's so many. Oh. I need a help to the door. That's on the door, there's a window. Oh. Look at that. I think it infected that guy. You see that? They're flooding into this house. You can't break down doors, right? More carrots and lettuce. It is loud inside this house. They're right there. They're flying around. I wonder if I can get out that way. No. Oh, there's so many. Oh!